In this video, we're reviewing when a team can replace their pitcher under NFHS baseball rules. It's important to know that the rules for replacing the pitcher under NFHS baseball rules are very different from those used in the MLB and the official baseball rules. So, as always, we'll first dive into the rule book and review the rules as written, and then we'll dive into this week's case plays. Hey everyone, Patrick Farber here with GHSA Baseball Umpire Development and Umpire Classroom, where we help umpires to develop their knowledge and skills. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Umpire Classroom, and you can sign up to receive our weekly rules quizzes in the video description below. Now, let's get started going through this week's rules. Rule 1-1-5. A player may change to a different fielding position at any time except that a pitcher, after being listed as such on the official lineup card handed to the umpire, cannot change until certain conditions are met. Rule 3-1-1. The starting pitcher shall pitch until the first opposing batter has been put out or has advanced to first base. So with this, we know that a starting pitcher must face at least one batter. This is for both teams. For that reason, it's important that when we're reviewing our game's lineup cards, we make sure that both teams have a starting pitcher listed. Now, the key difference here comes in the penalty associated for this rule if the listed starting pitcher does not face at least one batter. Rule 3-1-1 penalty. If the starting pitcher does not face one batter, he may play another position but not return to pitch. What we need to know with this part of the rule is that simply because the pitcher doesn't pitch doesn't mean that they're out of the game. Instead, under NFHS rules, if they fail to face the first batter, they can still participate in the game, they just can't return to pitch at any point in the game thereafter. Now, let's cover replacing the pitcher after the first batter has been faced in the game. Rule 3-1-2. If a pitcher is replaced while his team is on defense, the substitute pitcher shall pitch to the batter then at bat, or any substitute for that batter, until such batter is put out or reaches first base, or until a third out has been made. To ensure that the requirements of the article be fulfilled, the umpire will deny any defensive player conference that will violate the rule. In this first part of the rule, we know that a substitute pitcher must face at least one batter. Now note that they're only a substitute pitcher if they come in for the pitcher when the team is on defense. If they substitute in for the pitcher while the team is on offense, then they're either a pinch hitter or a pinch runner. They haven't assumed any defensive responsibilities yet. Now, if the substitute does go into pitch, that pitcher must face at least that one batter. If the defensive team's coach tries to go to the mound for what would be the fourth visit of the game, requiring that the pitcher be pulled, the umpire should stop that visit from happening until the pitcher finishes facing at least that one batter or records the third out. The rule continues, if a pitcher is incapacitated or guilty of flagrant unsportsmanlike conduct, this rule is ignored. Simply here, if a pitcher gets injured and is not able to face that one batter, we will let the coach remove them from the mound. The same applies to that if the pitcher is ejected from the game, they'll be removed from the game and the requirement to finish facing that first batter will be ignored. It continues, a player may be removed as pitcher and returned as pitcher only once per inning, provided the return as pitcher does not violate either the pitching, substitution, or charged conference rule. Note that this rule doesn't say how many times a player may enter to pitch in one inning. Instead, it points out that a pitcher can only be removed from pitching once and then return to pitch once. This means a player that starts the inning on the bench could then go into pitch, finish facing their batter, get removed from the mound, and then re-enter back to the mound. In that order, they will have only been removed from pitching and returned to pitching once in that inning. The rule then continues, if the pitcher, because of an injury or being incapacitated, is replaced as pitcher and the above rule is not satisfied, or if his replacement requires more warm-up throws than permitted in 6-2-2 exception, he cannot return to the game as pitcher. In this paragraph, we learn of two situations in which a pitcher cannot return back to pitching after having been pulled from pitching due to an injury. The first is that if they didn't meet the requirement of facing at least one batter when they took the mound, then they won't be allowed to return to pitch. The second, and this is very important, If the player replacing the injured pitcher uses more than 8 warm-up throws, then the previous pitcher that left for the injury will not be allowed to return back to pitch. Because of this rule, it's very important that when we have a pitcher removed from the mound, we count the number of warm-up pitches taken by the following pitcher. Rule 6-2-2C. When a pitcher is replaced during an inning or prior to an inning, the relief pitcher may not use more than 8 throws completed in 1 minute, timed from the first throw. The umpire chief may authorize more throws because of an injury, ejection, or inclement weather. Simply enough, if we have a relief pitcher entering the game, they get 8 warm-up throws. But if this relief pitcher is entering the game after an injury, the plate umpire may give them additional throws. But remember, if they do use more than the 8 original throws they're allowed by rule, then that pitcher that was pulled for the injury will not be allowed to return for the rest of the game to the mound. Also, the umpire chief can award additional warm-up throws after a situation such as an ejection or inclement weather. Now, let's go review Rule 3-1-1B. Should there be no announcement of a substitution, a substitute pitcher is considered to have entered the game when the ball is live and the pitcher takes his place on the pitcher's plate. What's important to note here is that if a kid is goofing around and just goes up to the mound between innings, that doesn't make them a substitute for the pitcher. Unlike the rule in other levels of baseball, in NFHS high school baseball, an unannounced substitution for the pitcher only occurs when the ball is put in play and then the player engages the rubber. In addition, Rule 3-1-2 note, if the pitcher, because of an injury or being incapacitated, is replaced as pitcher before meeting the requirements of facing one batter or recording the third out, or if his replacement requires more warm-up throws than permitted in 6-2-2 exception, he cannot return to the game as pitcher. Again, this rule reiterates 2 reasons why a pitcher can't return back to the mound after having been pulled. The first being they didn't face the entirety of the first batter or recording a third out, and the second is if they're removed from the game for an injury at any time and the relief pitcher needs to take more than 8 warm-up throws. Okay, so now that we've reviewed this week's rules, let's go ahead and jump into this week's case plays. Case play number 1. F1 is replaced by S1. The catcher or coach of the defensive team indicates to the umpire chief that his team wishes to grant an intentional base on balls. Following the intentional base on balls, S1 is replaced by S2. Is this A, this is legal, or B, this is illegal? The correct answer is this is legal. It's legal because that substitute pitcher did face the one batter they're required to face. And by that, it's because they're required to face that batter until they're put out or reach first safely. On the intentional walk, they will have reached first base safely. Case play number 2. After throwing 3 warm-up pitches prior to the start of the 4th inning, F1 develops a blister on the tip of his index finger and is replaced as pitcher. F1's replacement takes the 5 remaining number of warm-up pitches due to starter F1. Can F1 return to pitch later in the game? The correct answer here is yes. F1 can be removed and can re-enter to pitch later in the game. Case play number 3. After throwing 3 warm-up pitches prior to the start of the 4th inning, F1 develops a blister on the tip of his index finger and is replaced as pitcher. F1's replacement takes 8 warm-up pitches. Can F1 return to pitch later in the game? The correct answer here is yes. The number of warm-up throws used by F1 does not matter in this situation. The substitute coming in is a new pitcher, and by rule, they will be given 8 warm-up throws. And since they are a substitute and did not use more than 8 throws, the pitcher they replaced will be allowed to return back to the mound. Case play number 4. After throwing 3 warm-up pitches prior to the start of the 4th inning, F1 develops a blister on the tip of his index finger and is replaced as pitcher. F1's replacement takes 12 warm-up pitches. Can F1 return to pitch later in the game? Finally, in this rule, the answer is no, because the relief pitcher that came in used more than the 8 granted throws. In that situation, the pitcher they're replacing will not be allowed to return to the game as the pitcher. Case play number 5. F1 intentionally throws at B4 and is ejected from the contest. The opposing coach feels that S1 is only allowed 5 warm-up pitches. How many pitches does the substitute pitcher get? A, no more than 5, B, no more than 8, C, 8 but may be authorized for more by the umpire-in-chief. The correct answer here is C. By default, as a pitcher coming into the game, they're granted the 8 warm-up throws. But because they're replacing a pitcher that was ejected, they may be granted additional throws by the umpire-in-chief. Case play number 6. In the top of the second inning, F1's late getting to the mound. F3, while waiting to give the ball to F1, toes the rubber with the ball. Is this a substitution? Is it A, yes, F3 is now the pitcher and must face one batter, or B, no, F1 is still the pitcher of record? The correct answer here is B. F1 is still the pitcher of record. Just because F3 in the dead ball time between innings goes and toes the rubber, that does not make them a substitute entered for the pitcher. Case play number 7. In the top of the second inning, F1 is late getting to the mound. F3, while waiting to give the ball to F1, toes the rubber with the ball and delivers a warm-up pitch. Is this a substitution? A, yes, F3 is now the pitcher and must face one batter. B, no, F1 is still the pitcher of record. The correct answer here is no. Again, they're not an unannounced substitute for the pitcher until it is a live ball and then they toe the rubber. This pitch was a warm-up pitch delivered during a dead ball and wouldn't meet the requirements to make them an unannounced substitution. Case play number 8. F1 faces the first batter of the inning. The batter is left-handed. The next batter is right-handed, so the coach's F3 pitch to the batter. The following batter is left-handed. Can F1 return to pitch against the third batter? The correct answer is yes, they can return. Again, so long as that substitute, F3, faces the one batter, which they did, then the other pitcher can come back because they faced the one batter that they needed to face. Also, this would be the first time that they had been removed from pitcher and then completed the action of being re-entered as pitcher. Now, if they were removed from pitcher again, they would not be able to return to the mound for the rest of the inning. Case play number 9. The starting pitcher, Jones, for the visiting team, sprains his ankle in the top of the first inning and cannot pitch in the bottom of the first. Later in the fourth inning, the visiting team's coach wants to bring Jones back into the game to pitch. Is this A, this is legal, B, this is illegal, but Jones can return to play any other defensive position, or C, this is illegal, Jones cannot return to the game? The correct answer here is B. Because Jones was listed on the original lineup as the starting pitcher, they had to face at least the first batter. When they failed to do so, that made it that they could not return to pitch for the remainder of the game. However, the rule does say that they can return to any other defensive position. So there you have it, our review of when you can replace the pitcher under NFHS baseball rules. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. And if you want to see how well you can do on future quizzes, you can sign up to receive those quizzes in your inbox in the video description below. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and as always, I look forward to seeing you on the field.